discernment and unknowingly partaking in stuff repeatedly that causes you to fall away from God or stray away or causes confusion to develop within you. So that's number one. And number two, don't obsess over it to the point where you're distracted so much that that's all you actually think about. And you don't give valuable time to God, which you have symbol and energy and what it represents in other aspects. Also, I'm not sure if anyone can help you of the use of this energy that is not the that is inside of your store. I love you. Now, however, since I never met a principal, I always look at the foundation as a function. And when I look at this gesture, this hand gesture's foundation, I still see the hole. Whether the thumb in or the thumbs out, to me, it's the same sound. As men and women of God, we must remember the enemy doesn't attack openly. He operates through subliminal messaging, subtle distortion that desensitize us to the deception and take something innocent and twist it just enough to blur the line between the sacred and what's profane. That's why it's called the mystery of iniquity. It hides in plain sight. Even in empire, an art form that began as a voice for the voices, a cultural expression of the unseen. All right, so shout out to Jesse Wilson. I've always been able to separate the two, and I think it's because, like I said before in my court over video, I took like 3 years of sign language because I was literally failing school, and I had to take extra periods, so I had to repeat sign language over and over and over and over again. And so when I see "I love you" in sign language, in my head, my immediate association is "I love you." And then when I see the other variation, with the thumb is tucked in, I immediately see devil and satanic type of stuff. So for me at least, my immediate association is separate. But I can understand that it may have dual meaning, and I can accept that. It's not something that I sit here and use. I don't know any of those things pretty much ever. But if I see it, someone's throwing up "I love you" in sign language, I'm not immediately inclined to think that they're being insensitive. That's just me. And as far as like Cam Newton goes, this is the same thing that I said, and he broke it down a lot more eloquent, a lot more. Uh, yeah. Tell me now. All right. Why are you distracted? same time, the way in which he does it, the way in which he sets it up, it does look ridiculous. He said, Mr. Wilson said, how close is the light? I don't know if he came up with that by himself, but he did. That is a bar. Hard for how close do you like it? Wow.
If you are from lucky, which
She's not real life. She's stuff.
and they're like the generation that talks so much shit about what it is today, and it makes you go back and watch the game back then, and it makes you not even want to appreciate it no more. Like I mean, like
These are the moments when Shaquille O'Neal publicly questioned LeBron James' legacy, fear factor, and claim to greatness. For over a decade, Shaq has been dropping truth bombs that the modern media refuses to acknowledge. And what he revealed in March 2024 sent shockwaves through the basketball world. This isn't about hating on LeBron. Let me be clear from the start. What we're examining here is why one of the greatest centers to ever play the game, someone who actually stood up alongside LeBron, consistently refuses to crown him as the greatest. When you hear what Shaq said about Field, about killer instinct,
Brian
and
is not
about
the
the real
greatest,
difference
bro.
between LeBron and the legends who came before him,
Mike
you'll
is better
understand why
than
so
Brian,
many of us
bro.
who watch Jordan and Kobe dominate have always had our doubts. March 2024 brought a statement from Shaq's podcast that had
That's like
LeBron's
saying
fan
Brian was
base
better than Bill
absolutely
Russell.
losing
Bill
their
Russell got
minds.
more grades.
During an episode of the big podcast featuring his former teammate Mario Chalmers,
Oh,
Shaq
man.
dropped something
They
that
shouldn't
cut
even
straight
be
to
that
the
different
heart
eras,
of
man.
the
You
game.
can't even put
What he
them
said
boys
did
together
not mean to say.
unless you
The
played
exact
with them.
words were these. And when pressed on it, Shaq doubled down without hesitation. LeBron tried to clap back on Instagram by posting about his consecutive double-digit scoring streak being longer than Shaq's entire career, which is a cute stat, but completely misses the point. Nobody fears it. And you know what? That matters more than almost anything else when we're talking about who's the greatest to ever do it. Mario Chalmers, who won 2 championships playing alongside LeBron in Miami, elaborated on exactly why players don't fear him the way they feared Jordan or Kobe. His explanation was telling.
I didn't think players really feared LeBron like they did Jordan. I never heard anybody say it. And it's not that you shouldn't fear LeBron. I just think at the end of the day, LeBron has been through so much that he wanted to be like. So it was kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna do this now where like like people respect it.
LeBron wanted to be liked, which sounds nice until you compare that to Jordan and Kobe, who wanted to destroy you. They didn't care if you liked them, didn't care if you respected them off the court. They just wanted you lying awake at night, dreading having to guard them the next day. November 2011 brought Shaq's memoir, Shaq Uncut, My Story, and the criticisms didn't start in 2024 like most people think. What he revealed about playing with LeBron in Cleveland during the 2009 to 2010 season was absolutely damning. kind of stuff that gets buried because nobody wants to acknowledge it. Shaq wrote about how their coach, Mike Brown, treated LeBron with kid gloves, saying, "Our coach, Mike Brown, was a nice guy, but he had to live on edge. Nobody was totally confrontational with LeBron. Nobody wanted him to leave Cleveland, so he was allowed to do whatever he wanted to do. The entire organization was so terrified of LeBron leaving that they let him operate under a different set of rules than everyone else, which creates a problem when you're trying to build a championship culture." Shaq detailed a specific incident in a film session where LeBron didn't get back on defense after a missed shot, and Mike Brown said nothing. But on the very next clip where Mo Williams did the same thing, suddenly Brown was all over it. "Yo, Mo, we can't have that." Delonte West actually confronted this double standard according to Shaq, saying, "Heads up, credit cards charge interest. But when you pay off your credit card balance every month, you don't pay the interest. Establish credit with your Chase Freedom Rise credit card. Learn more at chase.com/rise." Everyone has to be accountable for what they do, not just some of us. But nothing changed because LeBron was untouchable. Can you imagine Jordan or Kobe getting that kind of treatment? Can you picture Phil Jackson letting them skip defensive assignments without consequence? He would have benched them on the spot, but with LeBron, the rules were different, and they always have been. Writing about the 2010 Eastern Conference Finals and the 2011 NBA Finals, Shea questioned LeBron's performance at the biggest moments, and his words carry weight because he was there. There's no question in Game 5 LeBron was kind of out of it. I always believed he could turn it on at any moment, but for some reason he didn't. Not against the Celtics in 2010, and not against the Mavericks in 2011. It was weird. It's one thing to be a passer, but you are supposed to be the one. Shaq continued with an observation that still stands. "I'm watching him play against Dallas. They're swinging the ball, and they get him a perfect open look, and he's kicking into Mario Chalmers. Makes no sense." This comes from someone who played with both LeBron and Kobe, someone who knows what championship mentality looks like up close. When asked to compare coaching the two, Shaq wrote, "I'm not sure if Kobe is going to listen to Mike Brown. LeBron never really did. Here's what we do know. Kobe will definitely be in charge." That's not a compliment to LeBron. That's Shaq saying Kobe had the alpha mentality that LeBron lacked and always will lack. June 2015 brought Shaq to the Dan Patrick Show. When asked point blank to choose between Kobe or LeBron, his answer was immediate and definitive without any hesitation or hedging. "What about Kobe and LeBron?"
I play with both of them. Kobe has a killer instinct. I'm going to have to go with Kobe.
Killer instinct. That phrase keeps coming up because it separates the good from the truly great. The thing that made Jordan take the last shot every single time, regardless of whether he'd been hot or cold, the thing that made Kobe drop 81 points because he refused to let his team lose, that's what we're talking about when we say killer instinct. During an ESPN promotional event in Hong Kong that same year, Shaq elaborated, and his comparison revealed everything. Young LeBron was more like Magic Johnson. He was sort of like Magic with Jordan's abilities. He liked to pass and he liked to get it up, but Mike was Mike. He was just special, like no one else. Notice how Shaq compared LeBron to Magic, not Jordan, which tells you everything you need to know. Magic was incredible as a top 5 player all time, but Magic isn't in the GOAT conversation with Jordan, and neither is LeBron. June 2021 brought LeBron publicly criticizing the NBA's compressed schedule after multiple players got injured, and Shaq wasn't having any.
If you make a $30 million daily games, two more things about playing. So you want me to put you $30 million to win 30 games? Hell no. No. 30 games is fine. Because I did it, Jerry West did it, Marine did it, Magic did it, Bird did it, Bernard did it, all the great legends before us did it.
That's the difference between generations laid out in plain English. Jordan played 82 games a season without complaint. Shaq played 82 games and dominated. They didn't load manage or whine about the schedule. They showed up, they dominated, and they let their play do the talking instead of making excuses.
I can't believe that NBA player could make $1 million. And now these guys are so lucky and blessed, and they can't play basketball 3 or 4 days a week. And I know they hide behind all the analytical bullshit from their agents and people like that. What they're really trying to do is extend their career. The way the
his position crystal clear without any ambiguity.
How many good players will come? LeBron's about to do something that hasn't been done in a long time. But years ago, like 2 years ago,
Dice out. Shaq unveiled his official top 10 players of all time, and the order speaks volumes about where LeBron really stands.
Curry at the one.
Ladies,
Kobe at two. Jordan at three. Tim Duncan back to the four. Okay. Becky at the five.
and this isn't some hot take from a talking head who never played. This comes from a 15-time All-Star, a 4-time NBA champion, a 3-time Finals MVP who played with both LeBron and Kobe and knows greatness when he sees it. His conclusion after all that experience, after all those years competing and watching out, is clear as day. Jordan is the GOAT. Kobe is number 2. LeBron is number 3. What's even more telling is that Shaq has repeatedly left LeBron off his all-time starting 5 selections, which says more than any direct criticism ever could. The big podcast brought another point about why LeBron's longevity statistics are misleading, and this is context that his supporters conveniently ignore every single time. When asked if today's NBA is less physical, Shaq's response was definitive and backed by decades of experience.
Yeah, but you know, our game is supposed to be more structured. We think we're watching now. I don't know what to do.
Steelers depends payment with gift cards, share codes, or personal details.
Don't just take classes, take charge. Start your comeback today at reviewglobal.edu.
They say, yeah, I said the 90s, and it was way harder than this. You guys, you did this like kind of soft. Like, right now, you get LeBron, LeBron, powerhouse. That before, it was very well. Before,
LeBron has incredible longevity, and he's the all-time leading scorer, but he did it in an era where hand-checking is illegal, and any hard foul results in flagrants and suspensions. Jordan put up his numbers while getting hammered by the bad boy Pistons. Kobe dominated while teams were still allowed to play physical defense. But LeBron gets a whistle if you breathe on him long. Shaq also addressed the modern players directly with words that captured his frustration.
You know, it's just about it. I see what you're doing. I don't see that.
When someone suggested he was hating, Shaq responded without backing down.
You call it hate as you want. But people with the word hate, like you feel that they'll you ain't great. I say,
That's not hate. That's standards. That's someone who competed against the best, refusing to lower the bar, just because the current generation has good PR teams and social media campaigns. Shaq isn't alone in these assessments. That's what makes this so powerful. Charles Barkley on the Bill Simmons podcast said this about LeBron and his hand.
If you did not say he's the greatest of all time, you commit treason.
Scottie Pippen on ESPN's First Take in February 2019 said,
When I look at LeBron, he's not what Michael was as a player. He's not even what Kobe Bryant was as a player. When you talk about trying to compare Michael's instinct, his ability to take over games, his ability to want to have that last shot,
and demoralize you,
yes,
and scare the hell out of you.
yes. LeBron doesn't have that gene.
Kevin Garnett on a podcast with Bill Simmons and Adam Sandler in 2019 said about the Celtics beating LeBron's Cavaliers.
Nothing. And listen, we say something to see. We didn't give a fuck about LeBron. We didn't feel LeBron, and we didn't beat all five of them. That's how I felt. He was trying to consolidate because he wanted pressure.
Magic Johnson at Invest Fest 2025, when asked about Jordan versus LeBron, said,
Don't get it twisted. I love LeBron, but
no. This isn't one bitter old player with an axe to grind. This is a chorus of the greatest players in basketball history, all saying the same thing. LeBron is great, but he's not Michael. He's not Kobe. He doesn't have what they had, and he never will. Shaq has also defended LeBron at times, and being fair means acknowledging that complexity. On Drink Champs in October 2022, He challenged the killer
Brown like the
instinct.
sixth best basketball player in the
You don't have
world.
killer instinct. How you get 38,000 points.
That was
On
really.
the big podcast with JJ Redick in 2024, Shaq
I
called
don't even know if
LeBron
he
the
was
greatest
six.
young leader I've
There
ever
was so
seen,
many
and
greats before
admitted,
Brown.
when I got to Cleveland with Braun already had that shit under
Brown
control.
was in good. He still, he scared when he get on the court. They scared him, boy. He was an N-word. They scared
What we're
him.
seeing is Shaq recognizing what LeBron is and what he
Brown
is,
to hop over
drawing
here,
a
he
line
was
to
so
an
fast.
all-time great, the greatest of all time. LeBron is an all-time great as a top 3 player. He's accomplished things that will never be duplicated. But he's not the greatest, and there's a difference. He doesn't have the fear factor that made opponents dread facing Jordan. He doesn't have the killer instinct that drove Kobe to score 81. He started the super team era instead of beating the competition. He plays in a softer era with inflated statistics. When you put him up against Jordan and Kobe, when you really compare the mentality and the clutch performance and the way they dominated their opponents psychologically and physically, LeBron comes up short every single time. Shaq's perspective matters more than any talking head on ESPN or any LeBron fanboy on social media because he actually played at the highest level. 4 championships, 3 finals MVPs, 15 all-star selections, and he dominated an era of basketball that was infinitely more physical and competitive than today's game. He played with both LeBron and Kobe, so he has direct comparison points that none of us have, and his conclusions carry the weight of lived experience. His conclusion after all of that experience, after all those years competing and watching and analyzing, is clear. Jordan is the GOAT. Kobe is number 2. LeBron is number 3. That's not disrespect and it's not hate. That's the truth from someone who actually knows what greatness looks like up close. Someone who competed against the best and won at the highest level. The dark truth that Shaq exposed isn't that LeBron is bad or overrated in the traditional sense, but that LeBron, despite all his accomplishments and all his stats and all the media hype and the carefully curated narrative, still doesn't have what made Jordan and Kobe truly great. He doesn't have the fear factor that paralyzed opponents. He doesn't have the killer instinct that demanded the ball in clutch moments. He wanted to be liked instead of feared, which sounds noble until you realize that in the arena of basketball greatness,
That's like football.
That's why he'll
That's
never be the greatest.
That's like
No matter how many points he scores or how long he plays,
that's like
how many
dog.
times the media tries to
He ain't
force
care
it
if
in
you
there.
like him. He wants you to
Shaq's
care
been
when
telling
he
us
think
this
you
for
gonna
over
do out there.
decades.
You better not catch
It's
that
time he
junk out
started
there. Same
listening.
with Dion.
Think Verizon's best 5G network is expensive? Think again.
Be
This
fair when
season, bring
Dion
your
jump on the
AT&T or
field.
T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store for a better deal. Then use those unwanted bills to rack up goodbye gifts to AT&T, or cut them into snowflakes to celebrate your switch from T-Mobile. 'Tis the season to save at Verizon. Just bring in your bill to your local Verizon store and we'll give you a better deal. Rate based on group metric groups for recorded bonus 2025. Your results may vary. Requires full statements of your mobile bill data in the past 45 days and see this person with the promotion and terms apply.
Coming out. Come on, show Cosby, strictly skilled cam. Here I am, Pete Anderson, the Golden. Back to the bar, man. Come on, show cam. Over the past several weeks, tensions between the United States and Venezuela have been escalating. President Trump and the Trump administration continue to hammer some of these drug flows that are coming through the Caribbean. And obviously, that's turning into a big issue, especially now that Democrats are actually trying to force the president to stop and telling him that, for one, it's not safe, and number two, you don't know who you're actually attacking. Now, here's where things are getting interesting. Over the past several weeks, I've been getting a lot of questions because everyone wants to know, how is this going to play out? Well, it's going to play out in one of 2 ways, and we're starting to get a clearer picture as to how this is going to happen. Look at this, though. This is an article from yesterday, actually 2 days ago. It says Maduro knows that Trump is bluffing. Essentially, what Nicolas Maduro is hoping is that the Trump administration in the United States are bluffing. That we are amassing this massive military presence in the Caribbean, and we are bluffing. We're not going to use it. That's what he's hoping for.
Now, I want to read a little of this article to you, and then I want to talk about what the next steps are. Again, this is huge. Look at this. It says, it's been nearly a month since the
Oh, you got stuff on my screen.
entered Latin American waters, and still no signs of a U.S. military offensive. It says the silence surrounding a massive USS Gerald R. Ford, burning through millions of taxpayer dollars each day, underscores the trap President Trump set for himself. It's the goal of this unprecedented military buildup, combined with the narco-terrorist label, $50 million bounty, an ultimatum, and even a no-fly zone threat, was to find Nicolas Maduro. Easy. Finally claimed it isn't working.
You always wondered why that app didn't exist. Now you can make it. Meet Replit Agent. Want a custom workout plan? Make an app for that. Have a great idea at 2 a.m.? Make an app for that. Need to run an analysis? Or learn with your kids? Make an app for that too. This isn't just making apps. This is your imagination unleashed. Describe what you want and watch it come to life. No coding experience, right from your phone. Made an awesome app? Share it with a friend. Have a business idea? Start in minutes. Everything you need is in your hands. Now is the perfect time. Create something amazing. What will you make today? Try it free at Restream.com.
What is happening, according to reports, is that Nicolas Maduro is reaching out to others to try to figure out how they can help. Okay? Look at this. It says Venezuela calls on OPEC to counter U.S. threats. Venezuela has also called, and specifically Nicolas Maduro, has called on countries like Russia, China, Iran, even Turkey to put pressure on the United States to get us to back off. Because just the other day, Nicolas Maduro, he says the real reason for Trump's Venezuela fixation is oil. It's not because of the drugs, it's because of oil. Keep this in mind. If the United States or any country were to get access to the oil in Venezuela, the drugs would only be a small portion. Okay? It would only be, and I want to try to break this down, but what's going on right now is that Venezuela, yeah, obviously the drugs. Getting drugs in the United States is a $1 billion business. Okay? Multi-billion dollars every single year. But the oil is massive. It's 303 billion barrels of oil. That right there is massive. There's so much oil in Venezuela, but it's very little production. Venezuela produces less than 1% of the oil in the world, not just the United States, in the world. They have the largest oil reserve though. Venezuela can easily shift from drugs to oil. And according to reports, the Trump administration is trying to do everything that they can, yes, to eliminate the drugs in the United States. Yeah, that's important. Okay? It's good politically. If the Trump administration says, yeah, we will reduce the amount of illegal drugs entering into the United States, that's good politically. But what is good for the economy? Bringing in more oil, producing more oil, unlocking the 303 billion barrels of oil. That would be huge economically, not just in the United States, but for the entire world as well. Now, I want to show you something. It says right here, elements within Cuba have contacted U.S. officials about Maduro. I want to read this article. This is from Reuters. It says right here, the U.S. pressure campaign against Venezuela has led elements within the Cuban regime to reach out to the U.S. about what the region would look like without President Nicolas Maduro leading Venezuela. It says the sources who asked to remain anonymous to describe sensitive information declined to say who specifically from Cuba has contacted the U.S. Okay. It says elements within the Cuban regime reached out to the U.S. There have been discussions between the two about what the world would look like without a Maduro regime. The second source confirmed the contact. Neither source provided further details. Cuba issued a statement on November 25th accusing the U.S. of seeking a violent overthrow of the Venezuelan government and called the U.S. military buildup in the region an exaggerated and aggressive threat. Okay, why are we talking about Cuba? Well, here's the reason. Nicolas Maduro is protected by his military, right? Yeah, the Venezuelan military, security forces. But he's also protected by Cuban special forces, okay? Cuban bodyguards and intelligence agents. Right? He's also protected by Russia, Iran, China, Turkey, but it's been noted just recently that Russia doesn't want to be too involved because they have their war between Ukraine, which the United States is kind of involved there. But the U.S. doesn't want to get involved with the Russia-Ukraine war even more because we have this issue with Venezuela. So Russia is not really going to get involved. China just said recently that they don't want to get involved in this conflict between the United States and Venezuela. They don't want anything to do with it because reports are indicating that they are getting closer to potentially invading Taiwan. All right? So these powerhouses, the United States, Russia, China, they're all waiting. They're all trying to be patient. That's part of the problem, is that millions of people all around the world can't afford to see people here in this country be patient. They want Russia, Ukraine to figure this out as fast as possible. They'd rather have China either back away from Taiwan or just invade, and let's see what happens. And then obviously the United States. If the United States can unlock the oil,
When I try to say you shit, right city on them boys, whether we Taiwan or wrong.
Ousting Nicolas Maduro, the right move at this time. That was the big one. Now, I'm bringing this to your attention for a couple of reasons. Everyone's asking, is this actually going to happen? Is the United States going to go to war with Venezuela? The goal is to avoid a war, especially right before a midterm election. Republicans are having a very difficult time, specifically regarding tariffs and the affordability crisis that we have here in the United States. But if we also tack on a war to everything that's going on, and again, I've said this before, if we can unlock the oil underneath Venezuela, that would be great. But it would be a long-term goal. Short-term, it would create chaos. It would be a problem. And it would also likely mean Republicans will lose seats in the upcoming midterm elections. If things go down, like some are speculating, where the United States just attacks Venezuela, goes in, gets the Maduro regime out, and then moves forward. Could be a problem. So I just wanted to share because I know a lot of people are asking what exactly is going to happen. As of right now, all we're getting is different reports that this could happen. The Trump administration is going after the drugs or the oil or keeping Russia, China, and Iran out of the Western Hemisphere. Yeah, could be a mix of all of those things and not just one. So I'll give more information as to what is going on here. I promise I'll bring you all the news and updates as soon as we get them. Because today, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Something stinks. It's not you. It's your weapon on something. What you need is the power of whiskey. Custom branding with reliable HD streaming. Polls, Q&A, and calls to action that keep your audience engaged and stop interruption. Share slides and videos with zero screen shares left. Simulcast convincing and ensure a seamless experience in your honor. Don't just host the webinar. The power of Wistia, you too can become a webinar leader. Wistia, less work, more play.
saw the new glucose meter online. I decided to test it with you. If you have diabetes or know anyone dealing with it, you understand how annoying finger pricking can be. The Glucomax changes everything. It's a needle-free glucose meter boasting 99.9%.
Dice out.
You have it listed,
Dice out.
you type it in, and then you go pick.
Just drag it in. It'll be an audio clip.
7 out.
This plugin is especially sick because, like, as soon as you put something in, it's a limitless amount of potential that you type in, show up, it finds samples, and it will automatically find them since it's 184 BPM.
Cook it out. Nina.
You know, the great thing is to get on it. Right. That's when last shooting, man. I got into something. Just went along the line of a little bit shooting, like shooting today. Nothing really.
Dice out. Freezing.
Even when I'm not in the mood, I go ahead and take these classes anyway. And get over a little bit, just to work it out, man. And,
Dice out. 9. Winner. Coming out. Leader 9.
that was a bad call.
Nano Banana Pro is now on Artlist. Get free crack up-to-date model and all the lead.
That left one left my hand. To the right side there, left my finger. To the right one there. That's concentrate.
Dice out.
All right, guys. Come on,
7 out.
man. Appreciate y'all for joining me. Just quick coffee, even though I feel like it, just to keep the arm right. Peace.